but in supporting role today, Jay Cassidy, who's with a senior program manager at Skills Chicagoland's Future. And he has spent the last 3 years supporting the recruiting, education, and retention of this group, the Career Pathways program across multiple industries and multiple employers, and supported Walgreens in this effort. And he has a really good view into what it's taken to put this program together. And also, what are some of the stumbling blocks associated with that? And what have we learned? So you're going to hear from the presenters, then we'll open the floor for questions. They do have some slides that they want to show, but I think we're also going to, talk as well. Just to let you know, we hope the presenters are going to cover today, and we've asked them to cover, the program that they have laid out. What challenges do they want to tackle? The biggest barriers? What are the lessons learned? What was hard about it? And really just kind of take you under the covers. Like, I think we all get to see like all the positive things that happen, but we don't often get a chance to talk about like, where did we stub our toe along the way? And so I'm going to turn it over now to Christine and Jay. Take it away.
Sure, and I'm going to work on sharing my screen here at the same time. If anybody cannot see my screen, let me know. I think it should be in presentation mode here. Yeah, please turn your camera on, microphones off. I think we already did that. Appreciate everybody that's here. And like Marie said, I think this is kind of what we're going to go through. If you're someone that's a visual learner like me, takes notes, wants to take any screen grabs, take a screen grab, but let's talk about it afterwards. You've got to reach out to me if you're going to take a screenshot is the deal here. I do, and Christine, I'll let you kind of introduce Jasmine as well, but wanted to say thank you to Jasmine Peterson for being here on the Walgreens side as well, who is in I believe the Bay Area, but works with the Chicagoland community, helping kind of lift this program off the ground. So Christine, I'll turn it over to you for a second before I go through the rest of the agenda.
Yeah, thank you so much, Marie and Jay. Honored to speak on this amazing program that I've been partnering with you all on. We also have Jasmine Peterson from our recruiting team to answer any TA specific questions. The partnership with Skills is amazing. It's twofold, right? We have the Career Pathway program, and then we also, Jasmine works really closely with Skills on the direct placement part too. So any questions on hiring and recruiting, she'll be on the call as well.
Appreciate it, thanks. So we'll go into, and I think we've got about 30 minutes or so. We'll go into why do we partner and what is the Career Pathway program to really start things off. You heard Marie mention that Skills exists to help people find jobs. Over the last 12 years, an average of about 1,000 to 1,200 or so per year. The Career Pathway program is another iteration, another program within Skills for Chicagoland's Future. These three pillars are the simplest way to put what this program is and why does it exist, to get folks into a job and onto a career path, not just for that first promotion, but the second one after that, and dare I say even the third and the fourth promotion as well too. So that's the first pillar, the job and the career path. And we've worked with Walgreens on creating what the entry-level position can be for a sustainable wage job, and then how to get to those promotions from there as well. So you can see job and career path. We've got folks that are starting as pharmacy technicians, and we'll go through what the iterations were of this in a little bit. And then working on either college education and or at the same time, their pharmacy technician certification. As you can imagine, and I'll kind of let Christine talk to this, in the last year, 20 to 21 months or so, a lot of need in Walgreens as well too, for folks that have those credential certifications as well too. If I can jump on the floor for myself for a second, one thing that my parents said that I try to reiterate to all of our participants, folks that apply to this program, is that you can get a lot of things taken away from you, your job, a lot of items and things like that. But education is one thing that can't be. We can get that. If we can get folks that tool in their tool belt, the PTCB, the Farm Tech certification, then they can take that a lot of different places with them for a while as well too. And then we know the third pillar. This isn't something that you can just do on your own. A lot of us have gotten to the place where we are with the village around us, a community of support that we've developed, and we'll talk about some of those support systems that are along the way. Christine or Jasmine or Marie, am I covering it well? Let me know if I missed anything here.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, the reason why we do partner with Skills is they've been pretty amazing, and We always say internally and externally, they're kind of like our extension arm of our recruiting team. They really help us attack, those areas, right? We always say talent is everywhere and opportunity is not. And so Skills has been a really great partner with that and helping us with a pre-screening and making sure that these individuals are ready to interview and ready, right, for the career that they're about to take. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me go into, and yeah, I think I see Marie said, if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in, interrupt me. I talk quickly and jump
Jay,
in.
real quick, Christine, before Jay goes into what the actual pathway is, can you maybe, Christine, just give a little history for folks on the phone about why Walgreens decided to do a pathway program to begin with? And what problem were you trying to solve and what were you going after here?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a really great question. I think the conversations have been in talk several years, right? And even beyond the 5 years that this program has been in place of, like I said, talent is everywhere and opportunity is not. And we're trying to find those areas, right, where they probably don't have the opportunity of having these job, postings available, nowhere to go. And so I think we're just trying to tap in those areas to make sure that there are clear career pathways, an actual career at Walgreens, even though you may not have heard of it or may not have an opportunity to know that there are careers at Walgreens. And so, I mean, I think that's where it all started, right? And, Marie said before, we are kind of the first, right? We're kind of like the guinea pigs, and we had various iterations of this framework. And I think we're at a good spot right now where they are starting and as a pharmacy technician with full-time hours, full access to benefits, to Walgreens benefits, access to education and education opportunities with that clear pathway to store leadership.
Yeah, thank you. And I think sometimes it takes someone to kind of, and I'm going to go to the next slide here, spell out what does that pathway look like and how do we get to it, which Christine, I know that this is something released about a year ago or within the last year. If you can elaborate on what the career pathway looks like if folks are starting as an RX tech on the far left here.
Yep. And so, like I said, we'd had so many iterations, and we'll talk about that in the slides moving forward. But more recently, this is the framework that kind of is in place right now. So our individuals are hired into the pharmacy technician apprentice role. They go and they complete and go through their pharmacy technician training program. And then once they're ready, they're able to take the national board, like the PTCB exam, to be certified as a pharmacy technician. All at the same time, right? Depending on where they are, they'll either start at Harold Washington College to start their associate's degree. We assigned internal Walgreens mentors to these team members to help them with this experience. They're either assistant store managers themselves, or high-performing emerging store managers to assist with the career development process. And then in hopes, right, depending on performance, there are different avenues in which they can move up into store leadership. And we went through a different a role refresh in the field. So we have new roles. And so they can either stay in the pharmacy and move all the way up to a pharmacy operations manager, or go the store manager route and become an emerging store manager, learn and go through that leadership program, and eventually have their own brick and mortar store and lead a team and the actual store itself.
Yeah, so a lot of the education, and I hope a lot of folks that are on this call can hear the education that's put in place helps to get off the ground in the, what does it look like to work in the pharmacy, and then the actual city colleges, who maybe some folks already heard from in an earlier session, are there to help. How can we get those managerial skills, those HR skills, to get the business off the ground as well too? Christine, you mentioned iterations, and I'm gonna move on to this next slide, which is heavy on some numbers too. We've had 4 cohorts, as folks can see, And I tried to do a little color coding to help folks understand the changes in retention. You can see in first cohort, we started with about 17 folks employed, and in 90 days went down pretty quickly. So a lot of iterations, program changes had to be made as well. Christine, I don't know if you want to talk about them from your end, and then I'd finish up with whatever.
Yeah, so the
needed.
first cohort, right? This is the first time doing it, knowing nothing. And we were like, let's start a customer service associate, the very beginning entry level at a store. The challenges with that is, the pay is not high. It's not guaranteed full-time hours. And if they don't get full-time hours, they don't get full-time benefits. And, it was our first time. And so obviously knowing your first job, right? And my first job is, if I don't like it, I'm just going to quit. Right. And so we had a pretty big fallout, right, by 90 days. And so when we took those lessons learned and, started thinking about the second and third, fourth cohort, is like, what ways can we help engagement and development? And can we provide some sort of incentives for staying on? And, that's where, if you look at cohorts 2, we still had the customer service associate role, but we implemented more development opportunities. We had a district manager champion on board where that person was really close to the stores and close to the team members, as well as the store managers that are hosting those team members, to make sure that there are support all around for everyone that's involved in participating in this program. And then if you move on to cohort 3 and 4, it was a significant difference. We decided to look at our roles, see what we can do. Can we, can we try for pharmacy technician, even though it's a really specified role? And we decided to try it, which has been really successful because, if you look at it, there's kind of like a clear milestone. You get those individuals go through the training program. They become certified, which, obviously they can add that to their repertoire, their resume. And then obviously there's more, we provide more incentives, such as, we had internal mentorship as well as external mentorship, which Jay can elaborate on. And then we kind of changed up the education component as well. Whereas, before, they were enrolled in Harold Washington and could just take an associate's degree. We kind of changed it up to make sure that they are taking classes that are relevant to their job, right? And so we wanted to make sure that they had human resource specific courses that they can get more exposure to, like people leadership and HR principles. So they know that there is direct benefit when going to school, that things that they are learning at school is directly affected by their performance at work.
Yeah, if I could just back up here, and I think it does speak in Walgreens' patience with skills and working to come up with the best education pathway along with the city colleges. Also does speak to the dedication, the intentionalness of this program, that taking an HR course really does translate into a lot of these roles that you're seeing on these screens, as well as the technical skills of that pharmacy certification as well too.
Jade, and Christine, let me pause for a second. There's a lot of data here to digest. And I want to first applaud Walgreens for being so transparent with their results, right? I appreciate you shaking your head, Brian. I mean, I agree, right? Like, so many times people you just get to hear that things work well, but you don't get to hear how the sausage is kind of made. And I think part of the journey here is the first time around, things don't always go right, right? And I think that's like a big lesson for the corporations in the, call today, is like, you can't just, pack up and go home. Like, look at how kind of Walgreens leaned in. And let's just pause in here for a second. I know I said I was going to wait to the end for questions, but I think data is so strong. Were there any questions that anybody had, just as like, before they get into kind of all the lessons learned and others? Anything in particular that you wanted to ask looking at this so far? Oh, April's going to ask a question, I think. Are you, April?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
What was the track for the customer support associate? You said there's any type of associate's degrees? And I apologize if you did say this, but what were the positions that you were trying to prepare them to move into?
So all positions are going with the end goal of being a store manager. So they were either starting at customer service associate, or now they're starting at pharmacy technician. The end goal and how we promote the program is there's a career path, right, to store management. And obviously now with the changes in our roles in the store, there's two, right? There's two ways. They can either be a pharmacy operations manager, or they can move all the way up to store manager and beyond, right? So we're not saying it doesn't really end at store manager. There's district positions that are available as well. And since this is a Chicago-based program, our support center, our corporate center, is here in Illinois as well. So there's various options for our team members to move up. Yep.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Christine, because starting with the pharmacy tech role, it does lead into a ton of opportunities. I know of cases where they did become district managers. I also know some cases where they started as pharmacy techs and did become on the HR side. So this is just your foot in the door for these candidates. And really the opportunities are endless.
Thank you, Jasmine. The person who has EMP and has been putting some of the questions in the chat, do you mind if you can just you can maybe just ask those questions directly?
Absolutely.
The person who's the EMT WFS.arrow who asked the questions in the chat, do you mind just asking the questions? Okay. All right, I will share what the questions are then. The questions, for the Walgreens team is a few questions. Let's go backwards. First, how long is the employment process? What schools are you advertising these opportunities to? And are you offering transportation assistance to your main office, which is slightly different than what this program is, but might be helpful to ask anyway. Answer.
Sure. I mean, Jay, could you go back to the last slide, the previous slide, just to show? So, I mean, this is just really illustrative, and we have an asterisk at the bottom as promotion and advancement to the next role is all dependent on the performance. We have individuals that can breeze by pharmacy technician training program pretty quickly. And then we have some that may need a little bit more time. We don't put a limit on how many times that it takes to complete the pharmacy technician training program. They can use whatever time they need to complete. And so that question's kind of a loaded question because it could vary, right? They could excel pretty quickly and they could be on their way to, the learning development program for emerging store managers by like a year, or it could take a little bit more time. So it's just all dependent on the individual, and we're not really pressing or forcing or pressuring our team members to like, hey, by year one, you have to be done and certified as a certified pharmacy technician. It's not like that. It's all based on the individual.
If I can jump in really quick, one thing that we did see as a byproduct, though, is of the internal mentorship. So a store manager that is not my store manager being my mentor is someone that sees, my growth, my professional development, and says, hey, here's another opportunity. You might be interested in that as well, too. We've seen things like that kind of answers your question as well. I believe the question about transportation assistance was to the skills office. We are doing a lot of screening virtually. I can quickly answer that right now.
Thank you.
And then
April has another question.
Thank you. So it makes sense to me that you would create a ladder to store manager for your customer associates. Forgive me, it just seems like, an interest in being a pharmacy technician and an interest in being a store manager seems like different types of positions.
Yeah.
And I wonder, do any of these pharmacy techs want to become pharmacists? or why this particular pairing?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. So our store managers have to know the whole big box of our store, right? So both the front end and pharmacy. A requirement of our store manager is you have to be PTCB certified. So they actually have to go through the pharmacy tech program, regardless or not, if they wanted to be a store manager. And then your second question, we get a lot of those pharmacy technicians that are not in our career pathway program solely because they want the experience in the pharmacy to become pharmacists and go to pharmacy schools. And we have other programs that support those individuals.
Great question. Okay, why don't I let them go on to the next, I think Jay and Christine want to share with you some, a little step even below of how do you make this happen?
Yeah, and this is loaded with quite a bit of content too. So, I'll let folks read it while I quickly just talk through. And I've kind of already mentioned, and maybe some folks are familiar with the work that Skills for Chicagoland's Future does, is recruiting and screening candidates. I saw there was a question about advertising, which I'll say Kyle is on the call from Skills, who is really supportive of the communication and marketing efforts of that to build what really goes into the start of the program, a large pipeline of qualified candidates that are interested in the opportunity, not just as a farm tech, but the opportunity to move up farther and farther with education as well. That's really what Skills work is at the front end of the program, making sure that folks are interested in Walgreens are able to get into the city colleges or a college and are college ready, and that they have the persistence, the motivation as well to show up to work on those days where it's going to be 5 below or 85 degrees and you might have to bike to work. That's kind of the role that Skills plays. April, I don't know if you still have your hand up. I want to pause. No, okay. I wanted to pause in case you had a question before I kick it over to Jasmine and Christine to kind of talk through a lot of the lift that happens from Walgreens as well too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of planning up front while Jay and the Skills team has, their 2-month prep with these individuals before they even get to the hiring interview day with us. At the same time, we're working with pharmacy and operations team to make sure that we have availability. Obviously with, COVID this past year, we had tons of openings for pharmacy technicians. And so, we were just making sure that working with the local HR team and working with Jasmine and working with the DM champion, we have the right stores and right store managers with the great people management and leadership skills to take on individuals in this program. And so it was a matter of planning out what stores, what locations, and making sure those stores locations are close to our applicants that are applying to these positions. And then also making sure that, we have these individuals that are, ready to take on that pharmacy technician role. Some of the things that we made changes this year, which has been pretty huge changes in a good way, is that our training and onboarding at the stores are budgeted by the minute. And so they're already strapped thin as it is with COVID, and now we have flu season coming up. We actually met with our pharmacy and operations leadership teams to ask for additional funding, which is that bullet that says FDF funding for locations. So those locations that are hosting a career pathway team member will get additional budget for onboarding and career development for these individuals, which was necessary for the success of, beyond the 90-day retention. They got additional time one-on-one with trainers, a lot of additional time hands-on training back in the pharmacy. And so it was extremely beneficial. We got a lot of positive feedback from the store managers that we're hosting and hoping that we could do that again for the next cohort. And then I don't know, Jay, if you wanted to talk, we didn't talk about this much, but we also added stipends depending on the different milestones. So we did that for the last 2 cohorts. I think that was a big change that kind of made sure that our team members were engaged and committed to this program. we offered additional stipends depending on what that milestone was that we provided. And then obviously we have that DM champion that was on the, had her boots close to the stores, and the success of our local HR team who had regular calls, check-ins with our store managers. Also with partnership with Skills, we had awesome onboarding sessions with Skills to make sure that our store managers were confident and they had the right and appropriate support needed for the success for these individuals.
Yeah, I just like reiterate the same thing, providing stipends in addition to obviously hourly wages for working. You hit a milestone, you earn your pharmacy tech certification, you get a stipend thanks to Walgreens. It's midterm season right now in schools. Midterms getting passed, you get a stipend for studying because that is time as well too. And I think that's a really big enticer to folks that want to get into this program and to continue to increase retention as well too. So I just want to echo that from Christine. And I would be, I have to mention and appreciate Jasmine for being here as well, for helping to lower the access to barrier in the applications. You can imagine folks were applying to jobs quite a bit throughout the year. Right now there's lulls and there's dips and valleys in folks applying, but always having the feedback from the talent team at an employer to say, hey, here's how Jay's application looks, here's how Marie's application looks, or what might have been wrong with it as well, so that we can continuously get better with those 1,000 candidates that we start with also. I'll pause there because I think,
we have about just shy of 10 minutes left. And so I think the last thing, before we open up for questions is the team has done, Christine and, and Jay had put together a list of what do you need to be successful? What does a program need to be successful if you're going to do a career pathway program at your company? And so, man, this is like 3 years of, best practices put on one page here. So, Christine and Jay, do you mind taking this away? And then we'll open up for questions.
Yeah, Christine, I think we're having a standoff here. Please add on. But the things on the left side that you see are really what we believe and we've worked on that takes to create a strong program. I mentioned the pipeline, 1,000 applicants per cohort almost. Financial stability increases retention. I think that goes to the stipend piece that I just said as well. Obviously, folks are going to stay if they have those stipends available to them. And then, credit to Christine and the Walgreens team in providing these quick wins that April asked about, and we kind of discussed in the promotion ladder as well too. And one thing that we're still admittedly researching and looking into is how can we continue to help folks with certifications versus long-term wins, when we know that folks on the south and the west side of Chicago don't have as much time to go to school. They don't have as much opportunity to not be working during that time. What's the shortest term win that can get the next promotion available as well too? I don't want to talk about these last two, Christine, because I don't want to steal any more of your thunder. I feel like I've talked too much already.
No, it's been great, Jay. Some things that I want to mention that aren't on this slide is, I think what's really important is making sure that your leadership is aligned and committed and supportive, knowing that this is super hard, right? We have been working on this for years now, and it is not a cookie cutter framework, and to allow the flexibility to make changes if something isn't working, and don't get discouraged if something isn't working, right? We're all trying to figure this out at the same time. So I think that's just something that I wanted to make sure that was iterated here, is that make sure that you have the leadership that is kind of puts the trust into your team to make those changes and be nimble and be agile, because, obviously with society changing and obviously all the things that changed within the past 20 months, you kind of have to be on your toes to make and accommodate for these team members.
Yep. So let's open it up then for questions. Employer, really Corporate Coalition is about employer to employer. And I think, one of the big things we want to do is provide an opportunity here for Christine to really, answer anything. So as you all, are thinking about maybe what, it doesn't have to be the same pathway, right? I mean, there's kind of a general set of lessons that come from here. Are there, I have certainly some questions for her, but I want to open it up to you all first.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Patrice.
Thank you. I could not get off mute before. I don't know what was wrong. Okay, so the questions that I had were about, the program. How do you advertise it? Do you only advertise it to the city colleges of Chicago? Do you broaden it? Do you broaden it to high schools or other community colleges in the area? Is it something that takes place once a year, or is it a year-long thing? How long is the employment process from the time the person applies to when they're accepted into the program and they start working? How long does that take? I'll start with those three.
Christine, do you want to take those?
Yeah, I was actually pointing to Jay to see if you wanted to talk about the pre-employment and the pre-screen process, right? Because I know that's a significant time leading up to the actual interview day where they actually come in and interview for the position.
Yeah, and that is about a 2-month, 6-week process to get into the city colleges. It's advertised to a lot of folks, and generally can be found on our website. We've averaged about 1 cohort per year, and that changes with COVID, quite frankly.
Okay. So
Thanks
it takes about 2 months to get it started, and then you start the interview process after that point.
Yeah, and a lot of that support is helping to get into the city colleges and things like that too.
Okay.
Great
do you
question.
guys make a presentation at the school, or do you just advertise it with posters and things like that?
Just advertise it, and then that generally the first step is for an applicant to come to an information session, much like we're all sitting here listening to also virtually.
Okay. And then I was asking about the transportation. I know that a lot of people who live on the south side or the west side, they may not be able to come to your different locations. Are they asked to come out to your main office? Or are there other locations that they can go to that are closer to them? Or do you offer transportation assistance for them?
So much of the screening process is virtually for participants, and we do have an office on 63rd in Halsted in the Inglewood neighborhood of Chicago too.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you.
I noticed we have 1 more minute left if we have any lingering questions too. Sorry, Marie.
I do want to reiterate on the interview process, Patrice, just to go a little bit further in that. What I thought that was unique, that after that 2-month process occurred, that Jay and Christine had it where the store managers did a 1-day interview session with the candidates all at once with the store managers that were involved. And then the managers did a calibration session. So right after that interview, within 24 hours, I believe it was, or 48 hours, they received an offer for the store. So that happened pretty quick after their interviews. So the pre-planning of it was 2 months, but the actual process itself, the way it was laid out, was very short. So.
Okay, thank you so much. We have 20 seconds left. I want to let you know the contact information will be sent to you in the post survey. April will be happy to follow up. Yes, we've done it with several other employers. Jay would be happy, I'm sure, to follow up with you. Please get in connection. And thank you so much to Jasmine, Christine, and Jay for doing this, and the Corporate Coalition for hosting. Let's get some pathway programs out there and change some lives. Thanks, folks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.